Hello and thanks for joining the Thursday edition of Journalist Hangout. I'm Veronica Boy. Today on the program, fuel scarcity persists in many states as motorists defy harsh Harmattan, sleep in queues to buy fuel. I will be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju, Tululokwe Ogunjobi and Chris Keindi Nwandu. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Journalist Hangout starts now. Nigeria is one of Africa's biggest exporter of crude oil, but its fuel story is a mixture of two paradoxical extremes. It has an abundant crude endowment on one hand and suffers the worst perennial fuel crisis on the other hand. Its oil boom is fast becoming its doom. Since last December, Nigerians have not recovered from the excruciating pains that the scarcity of premium motor spirit, otherwise known as petrol, inflicted on them. Now, from all indications, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, did an excellent job of failing Nigerians during the Yuletide, and today, Nigerians are still paying a steep price for its ineptitude. In Katsina, reports show that motorists had to pass the night at filling stations in a desperate bid to buy fuel. There are still queues in Lagos and other states, and the problem persists. How long will it take to address this national embarrassment, Jide?
Yes, you see, it's a happy day for me.
Oh, yeah?
I'm always happy when people mysteriously brand me a liar and I get vindicated. Because, you see, truth is a gentleman. The truth is always patient. Time is a gentleman. Time is always patient. I said from the beginning of this whole fuel scarcity that the problem is about supply. So, and thank goodness, the Senate broke its recess and decided to have a public hearing on this matter. You know, when you have a public hearing, it's not a monologue. You are not going to stand there and be doing all the talking. Other people will come. Say, we want to solve the problem. Okay, let's hear from other people. And today, the NNPC GMD was exposed because he went before the Senate and the chart, the importation and supply chart that he presented showed clearly that towards the end of the year, supply tapered down. So, what are we talking about? We didn't have this problem in June. The moment independent marketers, opted out of importation, because clearly, after crude oil prices went up based on OPEC design and, of course, Hurricane Katrina, we became happy that, yes, we'll earn more from selling crude oil. But what it means, or what it meant at that time, was that marketers would not be able to buy that product at that price, except there is subsidy. And we all know that government had stopped subsidizing. Because you do not control the price of crude oil in the international market. And the price of crude oil is, has so much to do with the price of refined crude, which is what we buy. So if the price goes up in the international market, it automatically will scatter your template. Once your template is scattered, it will now mean that the landing cost has gone up. You cannot expect anybody to go and bring product at that time and expect to record losses. No. Except the government comes up with a design to say, okay, we are giving you Forex at concessionary rates. If we give you Forex at concessionary rate, because at the time when we agreed to sell at 145, the exchange rate was 240. Today, the exchange rate is in excess of 300 naira to a dollar. Yeah. So you don't expect marketers to continue, except to give an assurance that, okay, you will give them some incentives. So they pulled out. And clearly, NNPC could not do it alone.
Okay.
But at the hearing today, once Barrow, as usual, spent all the time saying, oh, it is people's marketers hoarding and all that, he wanted to give the impression that they had enough products. Okay. But he failed spectacularly because as soon as he finished, Obafemi Olawore, the secretary of MoMan, got up and said, the chart that you presented speaks for itself. The chart shows that supply tapered down towards the end of the year, meaning that there is indeed a supply gap. By the time the minister spoke, the minister admitted there was a supply gap, which is what I've been saying all this while. And some people would think, oh, he's a liar. Jide is a liar. So the minister confirmed that.
Let's bring Chris in. Now, from the chart, like Jide said, which showed that supply tapered down towards the end of the year, could we have avoided that supply gap? And does it mean that we were improperly prepared, since we know that there's going to be a high consumption rate towards the Yuletide season?
Yes, thank you very much. We said it towards the end of last year on this program severally, that there seems to be a shortfall. Okay. I also said that even the so-called NNPC stations, we are not even dispensing. Yeah. When you get there, you won't be able to get to buy. Before then, we shouldn't forget the fact that the marketers were crying and shouting about 2 months, 3 months before Christmas that we are not getting the necessary supply that we ought to get from NNPC. And don't forget, NNPC imports close to about 80% of the internal consumption, about 70 to 80% or thereabouts. We noticed this. But the NNPC, what they are, the ostrich that normally buries his head in the sand, while the whole body is exposed, continue to lie. The GMD was telling us, deceiving themselves. The GMD was telling us they have about how many, enough capacity that will last for about how many months before then. And we were saying that this is not true. And while that was going on, we were heading towards the Christmas. And everybody knew that what happens towards the Christmas, because the consumption level will also increase. People are going to travel, people will be stalling, there will be panic buying and the rest of them. Those that are going to the hinterlands. At this period in time, if anybody is traveling from Lagos to any side outside Lagos or Port Harcourt or any Abuja, they will not only buy for the vehicles, they will also use jerrycan to buy and take along, because they wouldn't know what will happen.
What the price rate is.
Definitely.
Outside.
So they knew that, but they didn't want to agree to that. And then the prices was also a challenge, especially for the marketers. They said that the rate at which they were bringing the products was not profitable to them. It was not profitable. That something had to be done.
Pulled out.
That was why they pulled out. They said that they cannot match this. It's not possible. Subsidy or no subsidy, it makes economic sense. If I buy this product, I buy it for 1 naira, or let's say 10 naira, and I get to the market, the least I want to sell is probably 11 naira or 12 naira. Yes. The least, so that I can make my gain. But when I take it to the market and you say I should sell at 9 naira, less 1 naira what I bought, then it doesn't make any sense. And that was the issue. We said it that time. NNPC refused. The GMD continued to lie. He's the spokesman, Ndu. Anyway, he was the voice. He was doing his job. He was doing his job.
Of course, he has to.
On a daily basis, when we were crying, he was sending us press releases and saying, no, we have enough. But it got a point where they realized that this wasn't possible, and it was too late. And thirdly, before I land, they also they gambled. Why I say they gambled is because they were basing most of the supply on what they had on the high sea. On the vessels. Yes. Vessels were bringing in products.
Yeah, I remember.
But you remember we were saying it. Most of the tank farms didn't have product. So they were expecting that, okay, the fact that you have about 35 or 36 or 20 vessels on the high sea does not necessarily mean that we have the product.
Yes.
And that was the issue, and that was the problem they created. So it was man-made. It was
affordable.
It was very, very affordable.
Tolu, you've been all over the place because of this issue. So now give us an on-the-field or on-the-spot assessment of the things you have seen, both speaking with the marketers and those in authority, those you've spoken with.
Clearly, I'm also a happy man. The fact that I even covered the sector shows that at least what we've been saying actually played out to show that it's really the truth. The fact is, just like I said earlier here, October, exactly October, independent marketers and major marketers stopped importing petroleum products. So that was when the price of crude was above $58. We're getting to about $60. Even Dakpo, the head of Dakma, he said it, that it was October they stopped importing. For a national oil company of a country that knows that, yes, you are in charge of bringing in these products, at that time you ought to have known that there's a problem. And you ought to start with doubling your efforts, whatever you're going to be bringing in, as at October. And that would have prepared us for December. But we didn't do that. We kept on bringing in the products, and we said it on this platform that NNPC can't sustain this. We started visiting tank farms, very large tank farms, the NIPCOs of this world, the RTOs and all of that. And if you see the figures we were getting when I went to the DPR team, it wasn't really impressive. Because some of these depot owners have agreements with some of the major marketers. They don't just sell these products to anybody that comes to buy. They already have, some companies already have 50 trucks, 50 trucks, 50 trucks. So when it gets to that point that they're already rationing what they have, NNPC ought to have known that there is a problem. And the marketers were not ready to bend because, just like said earlier here, I can't bring in a product at 171 naira per litre, and the government tells me that you have to sell for 145. Who bears the cost, that gap? That's the disparity.
Who even does that kind of business?
Who does that kind of business?
Nobody.
It's not done.
So clearly those guys had to pull out of business and sit down, look. That was what they did. Let them bring it in, we will supply. Don't forget, the same Olawore was saying that we will distribute the products, continue bringing it in, because he knew that they were not going to be able to bridge this gap.
So why then were they being held as being the ones hoarding?
NNPC was just looking for easy landing. They were just being mischievous.
Looking for scapegoats.
In Nigeria, people don't admit, people don't take responsibility for failures.
Exactly.
You failed, but you want the president to continue to see you in good light. So instead of admitting your failure and looking for a way to solve the problem, you will rather blame someone else. Oh, it's because I'm too good, that's why they hate me. Oh, it's just some people from southern Nigeria that don't like me because I'm from the north. Oh, it's just some people from the north because I'm a Christian, I'm from the south, they don't like me. That is the way we are. People generally don't like the truth, because sometimes speaking the truth can actually hurt their meal ticket. So some Nigerians don't even like speaking the truth. They don't want to imperil their meal ticket in any way. But we know that if we do not speak the truth, we will not find a solution. That's why the minister had my respect today. Yeah. Because he moved, he talked about all the problems. He said, yes, there is diversion to our neighboring countries, because in those neighboring countries, the product gets sold at, on the average, $1, which means it's about 300 naira. Yeah. So people will still divert. Yeah. But he admitted that there was supply gap, which is what we wanted to hear.
Let's hear Ibe Kachuku speaking today at the Senate probe of the fuel scarcity.
The landing cost of product today is about 170, 171. The sale that we allow, the price at which you sell today is 145. The disparity between the 170 and 145. What that means is that those individuals who are really there, not with an obligation like NNPC has to meet national supply, but with a commercial bent, will not bring in products if they're going to sell at a loss. So our point is, whether we establish a 20 or is it 25 or is it 23, there is a gap. Now, we need to therefore say, how do we deal with that gap? There are three mechanisms that we're looking at in dealing with that gap. One, because my position is likely that whatever we do, given the logistics constraints of NNPC to do 100% supply and the overarching burden on the institution, we need to free the marketers to do their business. To do that business, you've got to address the pricing issue. To address that pricing issue, we're looking at about three models. One model, for example, is at the time, we remember when we got the approval of 145, exchange rate was 285. Today, it is at 305. So even at the minimum, there is a gap there. Now, today, the exchange rate modulation, if you work to CBN to do a modulation of what will it take to sell at 145, what exchange rate will it take to sell at 145 per the cost of purchasing this today, is about 240. It's not 285, it's not 305. So one mechanism would be to look at working with CBN in terms of a fixed exchange rate mechanism that enables them to stay at 145 sales at the pump price. If we do that, then they can import without the issue of price differences. And we can modulate that as as the exchange rates and prices internationally move up. That's one. Second is we're also looking at a tax inversion. These individuals pay taxes. Is there a possibility, for example, to capture some of the tax they pay to account for some of the differential in importation that they would have before they pay their taxes? So it becomes basically a cost of business. We're looking at that. We're also looking at the potential, for example, of whether you could theoretically respect the 145 price and have a plural pricing system. So NNPC and all its stations and all its affiliates, about 400 stations all over the country, sell at the 145 so that the subsidy regime is respected. The pricing of 145 is respected. But at the same time, the private marketers are able to bring in their product at their own cost and sell. So it's for an individual to decide, I want to stay with NNPC to go and buy. I want to go to this private marketer because there's speed or whatever. It doesn't cost the government anything other than what NNPC will be carrying to enable it support the 145 is the trading laws that they're picking up. So there are all kinds of models that we're looking at, but whichever one we land on, and we're going to recommend this to our bosses and get approval about. Whatever we do, we've got to address that issue. Not address that issue is running away from the problem. We can beat up NNPC all we care, but unless you address that problem, we're not going to get out of it. So that is one. The second, however, goes to issue of enforcement. There has been a very lax enforcement on diversion in this country. And as long as prices are hovering around 350 on the average in the borders, and we are hovering around 145, there's a huge incentive to export products illegally. We have not been able to police our borders properly, but the reality is that the provisions in the laws are very steep. I mean, these are economic diversion issues. Some of them carry as much as life imprisonment, still within the books. So we need to begin to dig that up and make marketers take responsibility for every liter of fuel that leaves their depots or their stations and goes to filling stations. Right now, the responsibility seems to stop at the edge of the tank farm. Once you have sold, you have sold. Whatever happens to it, you don't know. I'm insisting that trackers must be placed in every truck that has to carry product in this country. So if you sell product in your tank farm, all the way till it's delivered to a filling station, you must take responsibility for it.
All right, that's Ibe Kachuku. They're breaking down the challenges and the reasons for all of this. And then he came up with mechanisms to check suggestions that could be likely suggestions that could be, used to solve this whole challenge, this problem. Amongst it is the theoretical respect for the 145 price and multiple price, which he talked about, where you allow marketers.
That one's really,
you want
kind of liberalizing the sector. That's a little dicey for now. If NNPC stations are selling for 145 and private marketers are now selling for any amount, that one won't really work, because though yes, those stations they won't have queues. People that have the money to buy might want to buy there. I think for me, what I think is possible is for the CBN to create a fresh window for importers and letting them get forex at an affordable concessionary rate that they can bring in products and sell at 145. That is what I think can work for now.
The solution, just as Kachuku said in the course of the presentation, is to get marketers back to start. He said, let us get marketers to continue to do their thing. NNPC clearly lacks the capacity. He talked about the fact that, one, they were not even prepared for this. He said at the time when nobody knew that oil prices, crude oil prices will go up at the time it went up. And the moment it went up and the marketers immediately pulled out, it was difficult for NNPC to adjust.
Yes,
and like NNPC did not even fully appreciate the burden that it was going to carry. In terms of logistics, they don't have enough storage facilities and all that. And the logistics to make this happen, to ensure that we are not in this kind of mess. And I'm happy that the minister reported to us that they are already talking to marketers with a view to having them come back. You know, that of course they will report to the president. The decision finally is his, whether to direct the CBN to come up with the concessionary rates that will enable them to report, because you can abuse them everywhere. You can try to demonize them before Nigerians, but these marketers are still being owed 800 billion naira.
Yes, so that's where I'm going to. If you're talking about having a subsidy, can we really handle that with the economic situation at hand?
It will be, for now, it will be very difficult. And I believe the templates given by the Minister for States, Petroleum, Ibe Kachukwu, seems to be the most realistic journey we can take now. And don't forget, I've been watching him consistently in the past 1 month. That is Ibe Kachukwu, not the GMD now. Last week, Ibe Kachukwu came out boldly to say that the marketers were not the cause of the scarcity. He said that. He said it clearly.
That's how to be a honest Nigerian.
He was very, very honest with Nigerians. Why the GMD of NNPC was running his, running his mouth anyhow, lying, you know, bluntly, without being ashamed of himself. The minister came out last week and said, no, we don't need to blame this guy. I had a meeting with them. I said, yes, I know the problem you are facing. I know the situation on ground. You are not the cause of this problem. We are part of the problem.
Because he knows also that, okay, you demonize them, but whether you like it or you go back to them. NNPC does not, they've only done it, NNPC has only done it for 2 months.
Look at what we have
not even up to 2 months. For 1.5 months and we have this problem.
Do you know what? Just listen to what he said. He said, averagely, NNPC has about 400 stations. Lagos alone, I'm talking of Lagos. Go Ikorodu Road alone, go and see how many filling stations we have there. Now, go around the whole of Lagos. We have more than that in Lagos. And I will tell you that 95% of those stations are owned by independent marketers.
Lagos and Ogun State alone, they have more than 900 filling stations.
So what are we talking about? So
more than.
We're now talking of storage. NNPC does not even have the capacity, whatever they are bringing. When they bring them, what was the cause of the problem with capital oil?
That's why we don't have.
We forgot what happened.
You know, any country that wants to really tackle this kind of problem, you must have strategic reserves.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes.
We do not really have the capacity to sustain strategic reserves because we just don't have enough storage facilities.
We don't seem to have it. So that is the issue. So I believe that the stopgap for a start is try to woo them back. Okay, give them enough incentives on how to be able to go back importing. That is one. But the most, I didn't listen to the end of, I didn't watch him to the end. We still have a big problem, and I think we'll come to that. And that problem is our refineries.
Yes, there was a point where he talked about making sure our refineries work.
Refineries will only complement importation.
It will complement. By the time I feel and I believe, by the time the Dangote
don't put so much.
The minister or waiting on that.
The minister talked about new refineries that will come up.
Yes,
including that of Dangote. He was talking about 2019. I know that he has his heart on Dangote's refinery, which will deliver 650,000 barrels a day.
Yes,
you know, 650,000. Yeah. Now, what that means is that it can provide for our needs.
Yeah, for our needs.
Can provide our needs.
Domestic needs.
Yes. At least it can provide for our needs. But the minister knows that these moribund refineries that we have, Kaduna refinery produced 153 million liters. Yeah. Barely enough for 5 days. Yes. Because our consumption level is about 30 million liters a day. So what the whole of Kaduna refinery refined in a whole year, that's a refinery that incurred a loss of 2 billion.
Yes.
2 billion naira. What it refined amounted to 153 million
and look at also how much
5 days supply. So cumulatively, even, and you know, one of those refineries, the one in Port Harcourt, is today is dead, tomorrow
the one in Warren is practically gone.
So I don't think we should put so much faith in those refineries. I think with the vice president talked about modular refineries. Yes. We are working on modular refineries. They will come on stream. They should also let Nigerians here who want to build refineries, so that in major cities you have refineries. In major states you have refineries. That's the way it is in America. Yeah. You know, a single state in America can have up to 20, 27 refineries. A state like Texas, for example. Yeah, they do. You know? Yeah. So that is the way to go, but we must address the problem before refineries come on stream.
Yes, but before we go off that, Jide, Nigerians, I think at times we are short in memory. Let's look back. About 3 years ago, are you aware that the federal government gave out licenses to about 25
for modular refineries?
For refineries? What has happened to those licenses?
People will not just go and be building refineries unless there is an enabling environment for their business to thrive. Most Nigerians want the PIB to be passed because ultimately it will solve these problems that we are encountering. I'm sure that they are just bidding their time. Government policy can sometimes destroy a businessman. You've seen government policy destroy a businessman. You start a line of business and government will say, okay, from now we are increasing duty. That duty can actually take you out of business.
Wipe out.
If it is
wipe
not,
off.
You know, you can wipe up your profit margin.
Why are we still holding off passing the PIB?
Well, you know, the last time we spoke, we said that was going to take...
Assembly people.
Yes, you know, the last time we spoke about that, in fact, Jide said that it could take us 1 week to discuss that. The problem, just as he rightly said, is interest. Because which of the PIB are we even talking about?
The governance aspect.
The governance aspect. Because this is a bill. This is a bill that was initially introduced, I think, 1999. Either 1999 or 2003. I'm not too sure now. And it has passed through so many processes.
Yeah, it's a long time.
It gets to a point, and you know the problem. And part of the problem is that, you know, once a particular session of the National Assembly goes out, or that session goes, you start all over again. That has always been the problem. They get to a point where it will almost get to being passed and harmonized between the state, Senate and House of Reps, and they go and they start all over again. But what I personally have been able to understand, and from what I learned, is that there are some forces within the industry itself who don't want that bill to be passed.
The ROC is international.
You'll be shocked. Yes. And they are pumping, and I'm saying it boldly, and they are pumping so much, not in terms of Naira, not Ghana must go, not the one we are looking, not we are used to. They are pumping in dollars, billions, millions of dollars into the system to make sure that, because, you know why? Once that bill is passed, as it was initially initiated, a lot of these things will be taken care of. Yes, a whole lot. Most of these things we are discussing.
It will drive a lot of the rent seekers in the system. It will drive them.
They just drive them out of the system. And that is why I think if there's anything this present government that believes in integrity and everything can do, is to make
fighting corruption.
Fighting corruption, is to make sure that this bill. And
it is not the job of the executive to do that.
That's what I'm going to the Senate President. I said the Senate President promised that this bill will be passed, but let us wait and see if it's going to.
I just want to add something with the NNPC. All their means, they tried, trying to rush up to bring in products and all of that. And just like saying that they were not prepared, that's just the issue. Bringing in products, everybody knows that.
Even Kachiko admitted that they brought in emergency cargoes.
That's why I was even going
emergency cargoes.
Because the vice president was in Apapa, and he talked about the winter thing, people doing refineries doing more of heating oil and all of these things. So these lapses were there. They didn't envisage all of this. You don't expect those people to leave producing what they will use in their country and wait to produce PMS for you. So there were lots of
So even if they will supply you, it will take some time.
It will take some time. That is why we are facing this now. What they are doing now is they bring in what we have. There's a break. That's the break we are facing now again. They're trying to rush to distribute. They're expecting more to come in again.
Right,
so it's a big problem that the NNPC needs to just come out and admit that they've really
They're gradually admitting that.
We never admit.
All right,
it's too late to admit.
Let's quickly go on this break and we'll return to talk more on this topic. Stay with us. You're still watching the Thursday edition of Journalist Hangout. Right now, we're still talking about the Senate probe of the fuel scarcity. And initially, we saw Mr. Ibe Kachukwu there speaking about the situation. And then there was something he said quickly before we move on. He talked about enforcement, the laxity in enforcement, especially curbing, diversion. And smuggling, which is also a major issue.
He said that. He said, at least he gave instances and give reason why that should be done. That in Nigeria, for example, why we sell at 145, our neighbors sell about 300, so it's easier for them to divert some of these products.
How easy will it be enforcing, seeing that they are going to...
He said, you know,
they are going to make so much gain.
No, he said the first and foremost that he will advocate that we start having trackers on each of the trucks, okay? So that at any given point in time, you'll be able to know where each truck is going, where it's been, where the products are being. But I don't think that is very, very possible. I don't know how possible is that, because we have tried it in the past. There was a time we tried it. There was a time we tried it, and I know that it didn't work. Because the same Oyibo that gives you pencil is the one that gives you the result to clean up the distance. So those guys have a way of circumventing that. In fact, there was another time that we also tried putting in security agents in those trucks. Remember, I believe most of you have forgotten that we were putting security agents in one of those trucks, either a soldier to follow them to the...
Okay, we need to move now, Chris. Yes. All right, let's quickly get Obafemi Olaore speaking on the floor.
Our situation is like, what I'm hearing here is like sending 6 blind men to touch an elephant. 6 blind men to touch an elephant and describe what they are seeing. They are not seeing anything except what they feel. You don't have that time. For us, the main issue is supply shortage. It is no more, no less. And if you look at the chart presented earlier by the GMD, if you look at it towards the tail end, you will realize that it tapers down, meaning the supply wasn't enough.
Well, he was commenting on Mekanti Barry's presentation, also agreeing to what Ibe Kachukwu said about supply.
Agreeing with what we have been saying here, you know, on this program. From the first day, Tolu and I, we've been saying, look, this is a supply issue. People only hoard when there is insufficient supply. Scarcity. Even Kachukwu said it today, that when there is a supply gap, people will now, because they want to make money, exploit the situation by diverting, by hoarding. You know, so he said it. You see, the truth is like a mole. That insect. When you cover it in sand, it comes out at the other end. It will come out of that sand. So you can spend the Yorubas will say, "Biroba Safo Gun."
The truth will catch up with it. Yes, the truth will catch up with it.
One day the truth will catch up with it, with falsehood, with fiction. So Nigerians shouldn't be fed with fiction. Nigerians should be told the truth, because Nigerians also they can suggest how to solve some of these problems. Right. So don't keep them in the dark. Let them know what the true situation is.
Well, the NNPC GMD spoke about the diversion, but the president of the tanker owners responded to him. Let's see that response now. All right, before we go to that response, let's... Bubakar calling from Lagos, are you there? Go ahead with your contribution.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
I greet everybody in the studio.
Good evening.
Yeah, I'm calling from Cement at the Bamo side.
Okay.
Welcome.
Well, I just want to let you people know that the entire Nigeria know that, okay, already this government of ETC has failed. It's the government that we all voted for. But even now, they have nothing to show. Think that, okay, maybe the government is the government that is supposed to deliver something based on the promise they made during their campaign. But now there's nothing to write home about this government.
Let's talk about the fuel scarcity. Leave the government alone. Face the fuel scarcity. That's what we are discussing.
Yeah, yes.
We are not assessing the government today.
There are people responsible.
We are talking about fuel scarcity. Do you have enough fuel? So that is what we want you to. On the day we want to talk about the government, we will throw the lines open for you to talk.
Let's get the visual of the president of the tanker owners responding to Mekanti Baru.
If really what the GMD has said, they have imported 7 vessels, of which I have witnessed from the loading, then the allocation of the product shouldn't be given to those Darkman and Moment members who have no filling station outlets. You cannot allocate 10,000 metric tons, which is about 13,400,000 liters, to a Darkman first depot that has no single filling station. Where do you expect him to sell the product? Automatically and definitely, he is selling the product outside the market. And those who are buying the product from him above the required agreed selling price. And those who buy the product, they need to take it back to their own filling station outlet and have to sell it at a price above the 145 naira for their filling stations to operate. So, Mr. Chairman, if DPR can go and block or close a filling station outlet, I think they are leaving a donkey that is not moving. The DPR refused to touch the donkey and begin to beat the load of the donkey. Why can't you trace filling station A? You have this product and you are selling it 145 naira, above 145. Where do you get this product? I bought the product from Kasim. Kasim, where do you buy your product? I bought it from NNPC, from somebody. Then go back to the root of the sale of the product before you now come and lock the filling station. So if you are locking the filling station, you are not helping matters. DPR has concentrated their operations more on surveillance on the filling stations outlet, leaving the depot to operate freely. Mr. Chairman, I always tend to disagree. If Nigerian custom can prevent smuggling of bags of rice into this country, why can't they prevent smuggling of petroleum product by tank truck? So what are they doing? Is this because smuggling of petroleum product by tank truck does not attract import duty or export duty? If they can prevent smuggling of rice, smuggling of cars into the country, they should be able to prevent smuggling of petroleum product outside the country. I don't think transporters are involved in diverting petroleum product. And let me also correct an impression by the GMD who said 4,501 trucks did not return to complete the Aquila process. Mr. Chairman, in a period of scarcity, always PPMC rush transporters. Quickly go and discharge. Don't wait for Aquila. Quickly go and discharge at the filling stations. So 4,500 trucks were pushed to go and discharge the product in the filling station so as to avoid queues in the filling station. You cannot divert 4,500 trucks at a time. 4,500 trucks by average of 33,000 liters is over 110,000 metric tons. 110,000 metric tons is about 4.4 vessels of 30,000 metric tons. So is NNPC saying that 4.4 vessels has been diverted by transporters? Then why are we sitting down here? If 4 vessels can be diverted. So I'm just trying to correct the impression. Sometimes they said we quickly go and discharge it.
Well, Kasim Beitaya, they're exposing
it's one of
or
the,
breaking down the issues there again.
The man demonstrated so much brilliance. You look at him on the outside, you never know that God has deposited so much brilliance in him. The way he spoke, you see clearly And when the NNPC GMD, as usual, trying to say, oh, this whole thing, diversion, talking about 4,500 trucks, you know, not going through Aquila, he explained, there's no time for all of those documentation. They tell you, just go. We want these queues to vanish. Let these queues vanish.
That's what is happening.
And he talked about the sheer size. That is just not possible to divert that volume of petrol. And he said everybody was listening, nobody could utter a word. Because that's the nature of the truth. Because the truth the truth habitually silences falsehood. We were just looking at him. He said, if we can divert 4,500 trucks, then what are we doing here? That means our country is a failed country.
Yeah. Another thing he talked about was the allocation of products to persons without filling stations.
Yes, so and it brought to the fore something that some of us were not even fully aware of. You are allocating petrol to organizations that don't even have filling stations. That's what he's saying.
He's saying that they are probably the people even diverting.
Because they are the one diverting.
Instead of
outside of the market.
To the filling stations and shutting them down. Why not go to the source?
Trace the source. And that makes so much sense.
I've been saying it. Some people will say, oh, when some people want to know whether there's fuel scarcity, they will say they've gone to filling stations to find out whether there's fuel scarcity. It is the depot.
It is depot.
You sit down, walking your phone, and be saying, oh, this filling station didn't sell this. It is the depot that you go to know whether there's product.
He says like the donkey. You are looking at his exact words. He said it's like the donkey. Instead of this donkey, you are touching the tail and. When you see this product, and that's what they've been doing. That's what
and depot owners have been exploiting marketers.
Seriously,
I've been talking about this. That depot owners have been exploiting marketers. Some of them have retail outlets. You see them; they sell at the right price in their retail outlets. Some Nigerians will be praising them as if they are doing them a favor. Whereas to independent marketers, they sell at far higher than the depot price. You can see that a tanker owner came to talk about this problem because that problem is there. Those guys may not be able to come out so that they don't blacklist them. When you tell them where they do, who sold this, they will not talk. But somebody outside of their own group has admitted that this is happening, and he wants government to address the situation.
There has been allegations and counter-allegations with regards to buying ex-depot price, where we've had marketers coming to complain that some operators run two different accounts. They pay the normal 132.832 kobo, which is the normal approved price of the NNPC, into an account, and they pay some other amounts into another account, or else you won't be able to load your products. You won't get the supply. So most of these guys are involved in these sharp practices, talking about they don't have filling stations, they want the product. They're ready to pay at any amount.
Yes.
They will pay.
They will take it
outside Lagos. Wherever it will pay. It's pure business. I was with a marketer and he actually analyzed it for me and told me on a truck, he told me millions of naira that could be made just immediately, under 10-15 minutes. You don't have to wait until you sell and wait your generator, pay staff. No, you even tell your staff to go home and sleep. You've made your gain on the spot. Immediately your truck is going out of the depot, you are selling it already, and you've made serious gain.
Taking it off you.
See, Nigeria's downstream sector of the petroleum oil and the petroleum industry,
it's raking in corruption.
Lots of work needs to be done to address the challenge.
All right, quickly, we have a caller on the line. Davis, are you there?
Yeah.
David, yeah, go ahead with your contribution.
Okay, evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah. Thank God for the program. I'm very, very interested, and I like to be watching all these programs at all times. We are talking about smuggling from smuggling of vehicles, truck on land. What of the ones they are loading from the high sea? They are loading a lot from the high sea outside. They are just talking about
stealing our
Nigeria.
Ship to ship.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's
it's a huge one. Because even on the high sea,
you make more money from that
one. Ship to ship, and it doesn't even get, it doesn't land. And from there, they just like a clean business.
Only God can defeat corruption in Nigeria.
In Nigeria.
So it's so terrible.
All right, quickly, let's take now the GMD's response at the floor of the Senate. All right, I guess we'll have to come back to that as soon as that visual is ready. But that, talking about the smuggling, okay, the video is ready now. Okay, we can have that now. Let's see that.
And most of the major cities will clear them of queues. And for almost getting to a week now, in Abuja, you can breeze in and breeze out of the filling stations. Lagos for almost 10 days. I'm reassuring Nigerians that we will clear queues everywhere in this country.
All right, that's Mekantivari there speaking about clearing the queues.
Where?
In Abuja and some other major cities.
Lagos.
As I was coming,
There are still long queues.
Long queues.
You are saying even Lagos. I am a living example. As I was coming this afternoon, I had to queue to buy fuel.
So
this
queue
afternoon
was cleared?
There's even no big deal in queuing.
So
how long are the queues?
So
you know, that is the thing.
That is one
now,
thing.
last night on our news, we got our correspondents from across Nigeria. I think one of them will eventually listen to one of them. And people have been sleeping in filling stations. People are suffering.
Yeah.
Dala, our Kolomi Dala, our correspondent in Maiduguri, said fuel now sells at 450 naira per liter in Maiduguri. So all he wants to do is just come and speak, make it look like the problem has been solved. But if the problem has not been solved, Nigerians will know.
It's not been solved.
So if you lie to them, they will just be looking at you. The problem remains. All we know that they are making efforts. They are making efforts, but those efforts have not really shown. Because you go to Kaduna, there's a refinery in Kaduna, and the people are suffering. No fuel.
They are even angry.
No fuel.
Clearly the focus was Lagos,
And
Abuja.
Abuja, yes.
Clear Lagos.
And that's what they are
Abuja.
Yes, that's
What happened to other cities?
As if people in other cities are inferior Nigerians.
Second-class citizens. You know, so that's why yesterday I saw some trucks leaving Lagos along the expressway, and clearly I know that those trucks were moving for bridging. They call it bridging. They bridge for the north and all of that. What do you expect? Look at Kaduna, look at Maiduguri. Those are the tales you'll be hearing from there. Yeah. Because even Lagos is even the center of excellence.
We are still queuing.
So what do you expect? Ilorin.
Let's hear from our correspondent in Kaduna now, Tessa Makendi.
Highways in Kaduna nearly deserted with very little vehicular presence on them. The people have certainly seen better days than now. Many of those whose vehicles are still on the roads tell me they've been paying through their noses.
Honestly, we are suffering and we cannot continue like this. In fact, as I'm talking to you in Kaduna now, we don't even know when this thing will come to an end.
Elsewhere, the block market is booming. The streets are littered with young people making fast cash, occasioned by the torrid times. And driving a little further, we caught up with this queue spanning several kilometers on Muhammadu Buhari Way. Commuters have been here for nearly a week, waiting for when the product will be available. They tell me they are not sure of when it will come, but are still keeping hope alive.
I couldn't go to work yesterday. I actually came around yesterday morning. And ever since then, they promised us that the fuel will actually arrive yesterday night. Ever since then, he came around again. We met the manager. As the owner of the filling station, we met him. He says on its way coming down to Kaduna. And up to now, we've not seen anything, but he has assured us.
My home car is here since Thursday. See my bed. Now here, Thursday last week. Now here I day here since Thursday. Now I day here.
But some tell me they've resorted to keeping their cars at home and out for public. They say the Yuletide holiday wasn't the best of time as they couldn't catch up with loved ones.
Hardly will you see 2 filling stations in Kaduna Metropolis, to be specific, that is selling fuel. So what are we talking about? So it's just deceit. It's a political deceit, and Nigerians must rise up to that. We can't afford to keep allowing ourselves to be deceived every now and then, making it look as if all things are right. Things are not right.
There's widespread information that the fuel situation has improved in Lagos and Abuja. It's a situation that angers Kaduna residents who say they are considered second class. They want a lasting solution to the fuel crisis. They insist that the scarcity has become a shame to the Nigerian state, and they want it addressed once and for all. Tessem Akinde, TVC News, Kaduna.
For 1 week, some of these cars have lined up at filling stations. So I'm wondering which of the queues
look, I see that
was
man
cleared.
who said who was pointing at his bed.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that means he's been sleeping in filling stations daily. It's a very painful thing to go through.
Terrible.
For a nation that is one of the biggest producers of crude oil. It's shameful, and we expect our government to solve these problems. We expect our government to solve this problem, especially the government of Muhammadu Buhari, that we fought for. Because nothing makes a government lose goodwill like petrol. Scarcity of it, or the price of petrol going so high. Nigerians don't like it.
At all.
Petrol, as somebody described it, is a security product. Because lack of it can cause crisis.
Of course.
So the government has to solve this problem. President Buhari should take up this matter by himself. He shouldn't just listen to what is told, because he gets routinely lied to. So he shouldn't just take what is told. He has to find the mechanism to reach the Nigerian people, to understand what their problems are. He has to find a way to connect with the man on the street, the average man on the street, to know whether this problem has indeed been solved. And Abuja and Lagos do not constitute Nigeria.
At all.
In his introductory speech today, the GMD was talking about the fact that the Senate committee members went round and they saw that the situation had calmed down. Abuja and Lagos do not constitute Nigeria. The rest of the other people living outside Lagos and Abuja, they are not inferior Nigerians. We are all one people created by God. So if you can't solve the problem in Maiduguri, we should feel pained. If you solve the problem here and it lingers in Maiduguri or Yobe and other places, I will feel very bad, because I have people, my own friends, who are residents of those places.
So I want to
quickly
chip in that the issue of moving petroleum products from Lagos to those states is also another very big problem that needs to be addressed. We have to decentralize movement of petroleum. Let the depots, NNPC, that's also their job. They should make their mini depots and all the smaller depots work. Let them move products there and distribute to those states around. We can't keep waiting for a truck to move for 1 week.
Can say a whole week to get to Maiduguri.
To Lagos, wait to load for 2 weeks. Another 1 week to go back to Maiduguri. Look at, they say they're waiting for a truck at Kaduna. Do you know how many weeks that truck would have been on the road? We can't continue moving products.
Yes, thank you very much. As my colleagues have already said, the situation on ground is very critical. As far as we are concerned, there's only one Minister of Petroleum, and that is the President. He has said it. He is the Minister of Petroleum. Kachukwu is only deputizing for him.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
So
he should solve the problem.
So he should solve the problem for us. This problem should be solved by the President, not only as the President, but also as the Minister of Petroleum Resources. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen, for the show. An interesting one it has been. But that's all on Journalists Hangout. Join us tomorrow for another interesting episode of the program. Watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11. You can also watch Journalists Hangout on other platforms showing on the screen and on YouTube. That's at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalists Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Veronica Danik Boy. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.